Well, these people are very unpleasant. Let the freakouts begin, as of course USAID is finally being called out for some of the most atrocious, mind-boggling, wasteful spending ever, as now there's some people that have the audacity to say, hey, how dare you take away my slush fund? How dare you take away Operation Mockingbird 2.0, which is exactly what this is, as Donald Trump today is hyper-focusing on the larger aspects of the corporate media that has been assisted by the American taxpayer. As the memes here are glorious and hilarious at the same time, while Donald Trump, just on Truth Social, announced that, quote, looks like billions of dollars have been stolen at USAID and other agencies, much of it going to the fake news media as a payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats. The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received $8 million. Did the New York Times receive money? Who else did? This could be the biggest scandal of them all, perhaps the biggest in history. The Democrats can't hide from this one. Too big, too dirty. And yeah, when you look at the corporate media coverage of Donald Trump, especially during this election cycle, even when the man was getting shot at, 96% of coverage was overwhelmingly negative. If the corporate media would even admit what happened, as of course, as soon as it did, they tried to say that there was some kind of large crackling noise, that there was some kind of event that Donald Trump tripped and fell. They wouldn't even acknowledge what actually happened here. And then afterwards, still continued to slander and attack him when this should have been a moment where all of us put the weapons down, the political, proverbial weapons, put the hyperbolic language down, stopped the ridiculous bipartisan nonsense in this country. They didn't do that. They were ever so aggressive against Donald Trump. They're ever so aggressive against independent media, which is threatening to take their lunch, and we are. And the main reason we haven't is because these institutions were largely subsidized in what I believe to be a larger propaganda effort that we're probably going to unravel soon, that's going to show some clear collusion like we always seen. We've seen this through the Church Commission hearings all the way back in the 1960s, then the 1970s. The CIA essentially has been controlling the corporate media. They've admitted it many decades ago, and if you think it's not happening now, you're not paying attention. As, of course, USAID was the slush fund for the CIA, and for some reason, that slush fund was going to the corporate media. Why was that? As they were waging an active war against right-wingers, conservatives, anti-establishment figures, Donald Trump, and a lot of other independent media that was trying to, of course, make people think about other alternatives and realities out there through, of course, fact-based evidence from photos, from videos, on-the-ground reporting that the corporate media really, really just hated. As Donald Trump now is also suggesting that DOGE will be looking behind the funding of the Iraq and Afghanistan war. Oh, boy! Dick Cheney, whoa, Halliburton, whoa, boy, watch out there, because there's going to be some big revelations there, as Samantha Powers, the lady that was in charge of USAID, just came out and said she isn't very happy, as people are saying that she's now playing the world's smallest violin here.
Well, you can imagine when you suddenly in your inbox find a termination notice or a leave of absence notice that you didn't expect to get on a flawed predicate that you're doing radical leftist insubordination. It's pretty...
A vast majority of the institution was wildly democratic liberal, and a lot of the funding, we're still calculating exactly how much of the funding, but vast majority of funding was for radical left-wing democratic causes. So, clearly, you're running a government institution. You're supposed to be fair. You're supposed to be balanced, especially when it comes to aid, right? No. Liberals. Oh, yeah. Front of the line here, baby. And that's called abusing your position of power. So why are you shocked there? I'm not going to say anything about the way she looks.
Pretty jarring. And because there's so many lies and falsehoods circulating and so many claims that people are sort of not with the program, I think people are just completely dislocated. There's no stable ground on which to walk. And then, of course, most of them have been laid off, so they're worried about how they're going to pay the bills and how they're going to make rent.
Oh, boo-hoo. Boo. You've been on the government teeth for so long. Again, as a lot of people online will say, learn to code.
Maybe the part that is the most striking and, for me, inspiring, if not surprising, having worked there for 4 years.
Try getting demonetized, by the way. Try getting your money taken away from you. Try being censored online. Yeah, what about that? What about all those people that had their careers destroyed because of the left-wing intel agencies' collusion when it came to destroying independent media that, of course, created an extremely unfair situation for a lot of people that struggled to survive. You really, again, crocodile tears here.
Is that, the people who work at USAID did not come to work at USAID for the money. The civil servants, the foreign servants, the contractors.
They came for the CIA slush fund and Operation Mockingbird.
They came to USAID because they wanted to make a difference.
Propagandize people and propel and push their political ideology and force people to, of course, regurgitate it.
Difference in the world because they saw America's interests as tied up with the interests of people, vulnerable people around the world. And so even as they're struggling to figure out how to make rent, all of a sudden, they're most struggling with the fear that so many millions of people who relied on us as a country, on USAID as an agency, but on them as individuals, that those individuals out in the world have no place to turn.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Who's going to help out all of those Sri Lankan journalists that no longer will be taught how to avoid binary gendered language? That's where the money was going to, by the way. That's one of the many wasteful, absolutely idiotic programs. And I responded to, Bernie Sanders saying, this wasn't about feeding the poorest children on earth. This is the kind of emotional kind of play here from the Democrats, from Bernie Sanders, that thinks you're an idiot, that thinks you're not going to check the receipts, that thinks you're not going to do your own homework, and he's coming out and saying, oh, the poorest children on earth now are going to not be fed. Oh, no. Yeah, right. You lying, hypocritical, emotionally manipulating, psyop running Scrooge. Because, again, what does that have to do with LGBT advocacy in Jamaica that we're also finding, or promotion of tourism in Morocco? Why are we spending our money on that? Why? That has nothing to do with feeding the poorest children in the world there, as your kind of skewed perception of this is just absolutely frickin' ridiculous, and it's a ploy to make you feel a certain way. No, Elon Musk is so bad. He's hurting he's the poorest children on earth here. Oh, no. Yeah, right. This is a slush fund for the CIA and nothing else. Let's just be real with ourselves, especially with the huge amounts of sums of money that was going over to the corporate media, as now other questions are arising. Why did they spend $9 million on a DOD funding for Reuters for, quote, active social engineering programs? What? Wait, hold on. What's really going on here? As a lot of people have some serious questions about that. And before getting into all of that, we wanted to remind people you could support this independent media network by going to thebestpoliticalshirts.com and doing your own lazy form of activism. We have a lot of incredible shirts. You could search for them in the search bar up ahead here. You click load more. We have so many here. You could be here probably all day long, is we have a lot of really great shirts that help you do your part, especially when it comes to getting out messages out there to the general public that cannot be censored. Again, as we found out, the game was rigged. The corporate media had an extreme unfair advantage over everyone else. They were able to rig the system. They were able to be socialized. They were able to have a lot of their losses kind of paid for by the American taxpayer. Independent media couldn't. I'm very lucky to still be here. There were very close calls to me having my whole entire life just recently. But throughout the last few years, getting fully demonetized on YouTube, one of the first channels ever, didn't help here. As of course, we got a lot of great shirts available to you that we've launched in response to being demonetized. And this is one of the few reasons, because I innovated, because I decided to not just be a perpetual victim here. And I said, you know what? You take away my monetization, you take away my ability to make a living, I'll make another living. And the way I did that was with thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And truly, if you haven't gotten one, do it right now, because it's a perfect way to get active, to get engaged, and to start a conversation. It's a great way to meet like-minded people, like-minded individuals, and we have a lot of really funny shirts out there that are definitely going to make a lot of people laugh. It's going to trigger some people too, but you know what? Who cares? This is about making people laugh. It's about not taking yourself too seriously. And most importantly, it's about survival as well. As we have to understand here, the game no longer is going to be rigged here. We're going to be taxed a whole lot less now, predominantly because we're finally getting the true answers to what's really going on here. As a lot of people are saying, wait, what's going on here at Reuters? As they got, close to $10 million for active social engineering defense and, quote, large-scale social deception programs. Now, what are those programs? Well, they're tied in to DARPA, and they're there to, quote, combat social engineering. Now, what's really going on here? I'm still waiting for kind of more answers here. It looks like this was kind of a larger anti-hacking effort. Why was Reuters involved in all of this? That's a question that a lot of people have here, as we're finding out now that USAID essentially was the slush fund for the CIA to probably buy off and control journalists. As we found out, according to WikiLeaks today, that 6,200 journalists from across 707 media outlets and 279 media NGOs, including 9 out of the 10 media outlets in Ukraine, got funding from the American taxpayer. Most of these institutions, left-wing, liberal, democratic institutions, that were, of course, propagandizing and lying to people. One of those was the British Broadcasting Company, an awful news network that for many years now has been protecting a lot of very horrible people that like to hurt small children on islands. When we look at their coverage of the scandal that has been going on with very powerful people, a part of the royal family, that almost now ritualistically hurt small children in very unspeakable ways, you're getting a perspective. You're getting a picture of some of the most awful human beings on earth that worked to cover up one of the largest scandals in recent modern history that the establishment really doesn't want you talking away. But they released a statement saying that a free press is essential to freedom and democracy, as they got their funding cut by USAID. Again, this is not about, it's not freedom to take someone's money at force and then give it to you to socialize your propaganda efforts. Okay, you're not abiding by the free market there, buddy. So this is nothing about freedom with you being a welfare queen, okay? One of the biggest welfare queens out there. Why am I subsidizing your news, not even news, your propaganda outlet that has provided a larger disservice to everyone out there, as they're pissed? Good. I'm very happy to see their funding cut here. I'm very happy to see them pissed off here. I'm very happy to understand that now the playing field is actually leveled. Now, they still started at a very unfair advantage. I still think I want a refund. I want all the money that went to them. Give it back. Sell your equipment. Give me my money back, right? And the same amount of money that you invested in the corporate media, you should invest in independent media. I might be a little bit biased because I might be a recipient of this, but I'm being facetious here. But truly, if we lived in a fair world, it would be an equal playing field. And we never got the ability to compete in a fair market, in an open market, in an open, honest market. And right now, seeing this kind of story develop like it is right now, it is amazing to see, but there still needs to be more done in order to beat out these individuals that clearly were screwing us over. And shouts out to Donald Trump, shouts out to Elon Musk, as of course there's going to be no more guzzling at the taxpayer through media propaganda pigs. And that's beautiful. And that's amazing to see here, as we have to understand what's happening here is not just the kind of support of these awful organizations, but it's also buying them off to make them awful. As this kind of meme portrays here, that the greatest weapon is not a firearm or an explosive, it's the control of information. To control the world's information is to manipulate all the minds that consume it. And I think that's exactly what was going on here, as the corporate media was singing in unison. They were always saying the same things. Hunter Biden laptop story, not true. Weather bad, you pay more taxes. For weather gooder, you obey. You eat bugs, you live in pod, you give up your privacy, is essentially the messages that they kept. Oh, yeah. White guy's bad. White guy's stupid, dumb, bad white guy. All of them saying that same thing. Do not reproduce. Do not have babies. The propaganda was all symbiotic. It's all just like perfectly coming together when you start to understand. They're getting not just their talking points from the same kind of hand here. They're getting their paychecks there from as well. So these larger propaganda efforts that, to me, are going to be exposing an Operation Mockingbird 2.0 style-like program does highlight this larger kind of renaissance that finally will be allowed, since we are understanding that the larger arm of the establishment, the larger weapon of the establishment, is now finally being taken away from them. And this will mean there's going to be no more kind of concerted, organized efforts to try to destroy and undermine free thought, free will, critical thinking, and independent one-on-one, peer-to-peer media. This is a new time. This is a new day and age. You're subscribed to the right channel. Click the notification button. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange.